Hello and welcome to our newly rebranded Tippie Lunch and Learn webinars, practical insights from the University of Iowa's Tippie College of Business, served over lunch and ready to use right away. As a reminder, we know that many of you are joining us during lunch, and we're thrilled to bring the same great learning from our webinars in this fresh format with new energy and some fun twists along the way. Speaking of which, November means Thanksgiving is just around the corner. We want to highlight a Tippie alum making an impact on the holiday table. Brian Lillis, MBA alum, is marketing director at Hormel Foods, where his portfolio includes Jennie-O, the makers of the turkey that often takes center stage at Thanksgiving feasts. Jennie-O doesn't just provide the turkey, they offer recipes, cooking tips, and clever ways to make your holiday meal stress-free and delicious. From classic roasts to inventive side dishes, you can check out all of their Thanksgiving resources at jennie-o.com/Thanksgiving. That's not a plug. That's some helpful last minute, I'm stressing out about my turkey advice there. So check that out. We'd love to hear about your favorite spots with the Tippie Connection. Drop them into the chat and we may feature them in a future Lunch and Learn to celebrate our alumni in the food world. Before we dive into today's conversation on the future of AI, here's what's next on the Tippie Lunch and Learn menu. Tax trends and strategies for 2026. What businesses need to know. This December webinar is perfectly timed for year-end planning and preparing for 2026. Tippie tax experts Jaron Wild and Ryan Wilson will bring the fast-changing world of taxation to life, sharing insights on legislative shifts, crypto enforcements, and global tax trends that impact business decisions. Drawing on Jaron's expertise in international and corporate tax and Ryan's research on policy and digital assets, they'll provide practical strategies for navigating your year-end considerations like capital gains, Roth IRAs, and loss harvesting. Join us at noon on Tuesday, December 16th for this engaging live session. We'll drop the registration link for the next Lunch and Learn in the chat shortly. And if there's a topic that you'd like to see served up by our faculty or alumni friends in a future session, let us know in the chat. We'd love to hear your ideas. Today's session is being recorded and will be available on Tippie's alumni and lifelong learning pages, as well as our YouTube channel. Past webinars are also free and open to the public, so feel free to share. Now, let's dive into today's main course, the future of AI, ethics, insights, and real-world impact. Artificial intelligence is transforming the way we work, hire, and make decisions. But, as Uncle Ben from Spider-Man tells us, with great power comes great responsibility. As we head into a new year, understanding how to harness AI ethically and effectively is more important than ever. In this interactive Lunch and Learn, Tippie experts Pat Johanns, Emily Campion, and Patrick Fan, guests from Season 3 of Tippie Leads, share insights from the season's deep dive into AI. You'll leave today with actionable frameworks for responsible AI use and strategies to improve your work in 2026. We'll have time for questions at the end. Submit yours using the Q&A button down below, and we will collect those there as well. We have 3 speakers to hear from today, and as they come on screen, I am going to ask them for their favorite Thanksgiving food item. So first up, we have Emily Campion, Associate Professor in Management and Entrepreneurship. She's going to talk about keeping humans involved in AI. But first, Emily, your favorite Thanksgiving food.
Thanks, Nick. I hope to one day have just like 10% of your charisma. I'm just loving your introduction, all the work you put in for this. So thank you. He did prep us to say he was going to ask about food. I think that it's a bite, Nick. It's a piece of turkey, mashed potatoes a little bit, gravy, stuffing, and a dollop of cranberry sauce, and it must be canned. Maybe I'm
See,
old school.
see, that is
Right.
the amazing expertise that we have at Tippie. Outside the box thinking,
That's
not
right.
a
That's what that
particular
is.
food item, but a bite.
Perfect bite. That's all we're here for is the perfect bite of food. And maybe AI.
Well,
Maybe AI.
speaking of, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Nick. So I'll be talking about AI and human resources, like Nick mentioned. Really, the largest theme here is keeping humans in human resources. I want to start with one thing because I've spoken with the other gentlemen, both Pat and Patrick, about this in various capacities of our misunderstanding of what we mean by AI. And so I want to sort of set the stage just briefly by trying to help us understand that it's not just ChatGPT. Now, fortunately, ChatGPT and other LLMs and generative AI models have made AI really accessible to all of us, and we really like that. It helps us with a lot of things. But I want to just make a small note here that we also have deterministic models. Before I lose you with these big terms, rest assured we're going to go on to things that are more accessible in a moment. But essentially, we have deterministic and stochastic. Deterministic being a local model that you build on your computer, and the same inputs produce the same outputs. But then there's also LLMs, which are probabilistic. Okay. These are things that you can do the same prompt 10 times, you're going to get slightly different responses each time. And this is important to understand because these don't necessarily all function the same way. And they can't necessarily be used the same way. So I just want to plant the seed that generally when we talk about AI, we're talking about this whole family of methods and not just generative AI, but more so recently we're seeing just generative. So when I was putting together this set of slides, admittedly yesterday, sorry, Nick, but when I put this title, Three Takeaways, I wanted to start with my takeaways and talk through them. And if we all use, we all use PowerPoint, and on the right, it gives this design, and it brought me these takeaway boxes. So this is an instance, and it uses AI to do that. This is an instance where it certainly gave me something that's accurate according to what's on my screen, but not really what I'm looking for. So I wanted to use that as just a small opportunity to highlight what it can and cannot do. So these are my three takeaways that I'm going to talk through in the next few minutes. One, know how it can be used. Two, ask questions. And three, the thing that we often forget as users is we are experts. We might not all be experts in AI, but we are experts in our field, our domain, and we have to equip ourselves with that expertise when we're using these systems. So in HR, I've been working in this world for 10 years. It's being used to do a lot of things. Even this morning when I was driving in, I heard an advertisement for ZipRecruiter, and they were talking about using AI to help parse through resumes. These are really helpful ways to reduce the amount of workload and cost that sifting through each resume can take. So it extracts relevant information. Second is combining information on applicants or employees to make predictions. And what might I also say, not just predictions, but high stakes human decisions. Performance, can we predict performance for our applicants? Promotions, can we predict who is most likely to be promoted? And finally, turnover. How can we take that information and then reduce turnover once we know that? So that's another way we see AI being used. Most of the time now I'll say what's here. Now I'm treating you guys like my online class, highlighting things, but that is mostly in the world of HR. Most of the time we're using these deterministic models. Probabilistic models are a little tougher because they might not score things the same way. They might not extract the same information every time, and we need that replicability for it to be defensible. But where LLMs play a huge role, it's really helpful, is helping us create human resource documents like job descriptions. Those, I think they're thrilling to write, but not everybody loves writing them. And sometimes you have a lot of them. So that's really useful. Interview protocols, what questions are you going to ask and why? And hopefully also write rating scales. And then performance reviews. These are things we have to do as folks in HR. And we can use these tools to help us do it more quickly without losing the human touch. Second is ask questions. Now, if you're anything like me, you're seeing new AI-powered HR analytics, people analytics, companies pop up all the time. And while I applaud the entrepreneurship, effort there, they don't always know how much to divulge in terms of what their models can and cannot do. So it's incumbent on you to understand what to ask. So when these are three questions I always tell people to ask when someone's trying to get you to use AI-based tools for high stakes decision making about humans, right? Promotions, selection, and turnover are three biggest ones. One, what human attribute is being measured? If they can't answer that, don't use the tool. If they throw everything under personality or use buzzwords, ask a lot more questions. Ask a lot more questions because you are on the hook for what it's actually capturing. Second, is the model validated? Another way to say this is, can we trust what it's giving us? If no, then don't use the tool. You might be asking, okay, but how do I know if it's been validated? You have to ask them for the evidence. A lot of companies will have like white papers on the evidence on their websites. Look through sort of the trendy part of it and look for that evidence. So if their validity report lacks the components you need to evaluate quality, then ask a lot more questions. And if they won't or don't answer, don't use that tool. And for those of you in the room going, I don't even know what to ask, I don't know how to evaluate an answer, that's why we're here. Shoot us an email. I love talking about this. It's basically all I talk about. So feel free to email and reach out if you want to know more about that. And the very last thing to remember, I'm hoping you're walking away empowered from this session, is you are the expert. No third party knows your company like you know your company. It is imperative that you keep yourself in this system. We call it human in the loop in this world. It's called human resources for a reason. And it's really important to look beyond the trend. We have been here before. The Gilded Age, we had Industrial Revolution, we had people centralize labor and having to figure that out. My neighbor was just telling me the other day when I was walking my dog, he was saying, I remember when I had to figure out how to learn email. We've done this before and we know how to do this and navigate it because we figured out by doing, right? So pick your AI model that you think is the most interesting or you like the most, just play around with it. Right? It's every time we learn something new, we have to prototype, we have to play around and figure out how it works for us and how it doesn't. And then I might also ask, be transparent in your use of this to help others learn how you're using it and for you to also like benchmark against others to say, here's how I'm using it. Does that make sense? Is it taking extra time? Is it actually creating some sort of efficiency or helping me do something better? Transparency, I think, is the key to sort of our collective learning on this. So the three takeaways, and now I've adopted the takeaway box. I thought this was just so clever. One, know how it can be used, which the other side of that is know how it can't be used. Ask questions, and you are the expert. All right, now I'll hand it back to you.
Awesome. Well, Emily, I know we were joking beforehand because the one challenge is you get three smart professors. You want everybody to talk and to have plenty of time, audience, for your questions. Emily, you were like, so I said everybody 5 to 7. Oh my gosh, you were counting it down. You were on the nose. So well played.
Thank you.
So next, we're going to hear from Pat Johanns, Associate Professor of Instruction in Business Analytics and author of the new book, AI in Business, Creating Value Responsibly. Pat, you have the floor to tell us your perfect Thanksgiving treat or bite before taking us through what you have to say.
Well, I think pumpkin pie is a miracle dessert because no matter how much you have to eat, you can still squeeze in another slice of pumpkin pie.
Yes.
And that is with or without whipped cream. I'm not picky there.
That's my family's saying. If you can fit through the door, you can eat some more.
Well, thank you, Nick. And I feel like I'm the mashed potato here after your presentation and Emily's there. I want to thank Emily for setting the stage there. I'm going to talk about AI and ethics, and I'm going to share my screen here. And how we create value responsibly. And first off, why does it matter? As we probably know, AI is everywhere. Well, not quite everywhere, but 80% of companies are using AI in some form, and about 75% are using generative AI. And I really appreciate, Emily, you explaining that distinction, because usually I know Patrick Fan and I, in business analytics, when we hit AI, we have to tell people that AI has been around for over 50 years and make those distinctions there. But AI is just about everywhere now. And we run into risks every stage of that pipeline, whether it is in the data collection and storage, the building of the model, or the deployment of the model. And when we talk about responsible use of AI, it's not about slowing down the momentum because things are going very quickly. It's about steering it, trying to get to the place we need to be. So responsible AI is making sure that the AI we're using is safe, fair, and transparent. I like to look at AI through three lenses. The first is kind of the individual point of view. How does it affect real people in terms of privacy, fairness, and bias? At the organizational level, we're looking at accountability and governance, how we manage these tools responsibly inside those organizations. And finally, society. There's issues of access and equity, misinformation, and environmental impact that we need to be looking at. Um, there's a whole range of ethical issues that we could do a whole seminar on it and have time for another. But I've got my 7 minutes, and I'm going to try and make it in there. Let's talk about how AI can go wrong. Emily brought up the use of it in hiring. Amazon is a classic story of how they used AI and there was bias in their data and they got bias in their outcomes. There's some mental health chatbots out there, and this is a real kind of breaking story of the second half of this year. I've got the links at the bottom and we'll paste them in the chat. But basically, the idea I want to convey here is that we can have the best intentions with our AI, but not get good outcomes. And I was going to spend a little more time here, but I thought in the interest of looking at how AI is moving so quickly, I would hit an example that actually came up this week. Now, I don't know whether you recognize that picture there, but this is the singer of the top song on Billboard's digital song list for country music this week, Breaking Rust. Now, the song was Walk the Walk. However, that song was written by AI. And Breaking Rust, this is an AI. So the song, the video that with it, and the music were all generated by AI, and millions of people watched that, and not all of them realized that this was being AI generated. And this brings up a number of issues that we don't often think of about AI, and AI is changing quickly, so these issues change. But it brings up this idea of authenticity. Do we deserve to know when a performance is done by a human or AI? Questions about identity and culture. Can we use AI ethically to imitate a cultural voice, especially in a genre which is on shared experiences? Economic fairness. If an AI is trained on the music of thousands of artists and it produces a hit, who should get credit? Who should get paid? And if AI can generate hits and quickly, what happens when it starts to saturate our airwaves? What's going to happen to real human artists? So these aren't technical issues here because the AI is working right. These are human issues. And that goes right back to what Emily said. We've got to keep the human in AI. These issues affect trust, meaning, and our shared cultural experience. So within companies, I think we need to make sure that we follow these four principles here, that we have transparency in our AI, that we explain how the decisions are made, that we've got accountability, that we've got humans in that loop, that we've got fairness, and what I mean there is that we're evaluating the outcomes of the AI, not just the intents. And finally, AI can have a big impact on our environment, we need to make sure that we are using AI in a sustainable fashion. On the personal level, we need to be transparent about the use of AI in our own work. We need to make sure we respect privacy. You may not realize it, but when you put a prompt into ChatGPT, there is a chance it could become training data that somebody else could use to generate their outcomes. And so you don't want to put any private information on there, patient data, student data, and the like into your AI without knowing it's being held secure. We've got to stay accountable. We need to keep in mind that if we use the outcome of ChatGPT or like, it's your reputation at stake. And so you need to verify. And finally, AI is learning and progressing so quickly that we need to keep learning about AI and how it's impacting our life. So I had to go and come up with 3 takeaways. And finally, I didn't have the neat containers here, but steer AI with values. So we've got to use AI in a proper way. We need to demand authenticity and fairness, and we need to use AI individually and responsibly. So that's what I've got there. Nick, I'll let you turn it over to Patrick Fan, who will tell us a bit about AI in the future.
Awesome. Thank you, Pat. And yes, finally, we have Patrick, another Patrick, Fan, professor in business analytics. He's going to talk about his work, agentic AI, and what's next, along with sharing what he's most looking forward to eating next week at Thanksgiving. Take it away, Patrick.
Thank you, Nick. For me, Thanksgiving is a time where I can gather with my children, and my favorite food is going to be instead of the turkey, I would go with the roasted duck. The duck is like more like juicy, and we're going to do the picking style, and then it's very very tasty for me to start with. All right, so that's my Thanksgiving food. Now, in terms of webinars, I prepare a few slides. I just want to share with you guys my thoughts about this future of AI because, as Pat mentioned, this field is growing so fast. You almost cannot keep up with it. If you read the news every day, whether it's on the emails or on the LinkedIn, I just keep receiving this new update from different vendors, about the different technologies. So, in my mind, there's a couple of things which I think going to drive the future of AI revolution. The first one, as you probably know, is the thing called quantum computing. Right now, there are a lot of firms are investing very heavily into this technology. Now, this one, instead of using the bits and bytes, they can using the quantum bit and try to using this number more like a real number to do this kind of computation. This will be the driving force. And I know, IBM, Google, and also some of the quantum computing firms, they are, basically developing these technologies. And in fact, some of the prototype is already in commercial use right now. And so that's going to be one driving forces for the AI computation because AI take a lot of resources. The second major shift in my mind is the thing called agentic AI. This is the area I think many of you guys have seen already. It's in the news almost like on a daily basis. Right now, it's being widely being developed and deployed by organizations. Why we people care about this agentic AI? Why do we want to do this agentic AI? It's mainly because we want to focus on a small target area. So we call them as a vertical applications. And so whether you are in the, for example, customer service area, or you're in the financial area like portfolio management, you will find out potentially you will have some software agent that can do the job for you. So these are agentic AI, they build a thing called autonomous agents. These agents can reason, can plan, they can also act on behalf of a user. They gonna call the tools and seamlessly from the backend, and then they can also maintain the memory when they communicate with other agents or communicate with the human beings. So this is going to be really to me is going to be the future. And the third major shift, and as we Emily touched upon this, and Patty's also mentioned that as well. Right now, if you look at the Gen AI technologies, all these large language models, they are building using the thing called a probabilistic models, and they basically is like predictions, and then they predict what's going to be the next word, what's going to be the next thing they're gonna spit it out. Right now, because they're using this predictive in technologies, and especially probabilistic, there's all kinds of issues in terms of the output. So because of that, people are trying to say, can we do something to fix this thing like called a hallucination problem? Seeing something that is not true. So in the last 10 years or 15 years also, there has been researchers already working in this direction. It's called a symbolic AI, where they're using these interpretable rules and knowledge graphs, things like that, try to basically to you do the reasoning, do the planning, do these kind of actions. So for me, I'm a strong advocate and also believer that in the future you will see that neural network based AI, this is like large language models, going to work together with the thing called a symbolic AI. They're going to try to basically bring in more trustworthy, more reliable, and AI products, for you guys. So here's one simple example, the thing called a neural symbolic agent. I just borrowed the diagram, from Amazon AWS because they have a toolkit allow you to do this kind of stuff. So if you look at this diagram, we have the software agent in the middle, and then we have this newer models on the right, and then we have the symbolic logic on the left. So you can see that, clearly the agent has access to all the tools. They can do the, reasoning using the symbolic logic. They can also basically getting the output from this newer models using large language models, using this retrieval augmented generation, RAG technologies. And then they also have the access, to other tools that is potentially in the backend. So in the end, the software agent can produce the tools, for you for different organizations that can potentially deliver value. So that's kind of the thing called a neural symbolic agent. To me, that's going to be the future, and you will see a lot of this kind of deployment in different organizations. So this is a more technical diagram. I won't dive into this. If you're interested to know more about this, you can feel free to check it out. Neural symbolic agent. Amazon and AWS, they basically have a toolkit developed for all of this. They can also maintain the memories and then try to also provide a thing called a traceability to provide this auditing trail so that you can know exactly what's happening, how they come to the decisions like that. So in terms of these futures, I'm not a futurist, but I think I would say that you will. These are the things that I would believe that will happen, like hallucination. The things like we call them as makeup content will become less an issue in the future, because the symbolic AI usage. They will find ways to fix those issues. And more fact checking and the retrieval augmented generation, like a RAG technology, going to be used for content generation. And right now, you will see the shift. Instead of to produce this output without checking the accuracy, there will be more fact checking on that. And image and video generation will be more realistic and accurate. And you already see the product right now. One prompt, you can basically generate the text, the image, and also the videos. Multi-model generation, these are the things we just talked about. And you are also going to see that more and more push toward this open source large language models. And right now, if you look at Hugging Face, they already have tons of them available. I think the reason why people are sharing these resources is because they want to know exactly how does this large language works. And the future for AGI, artificial general intelligence, where the AI can work on behalf of the users without any human interventions, is going to happen, but it will take some time, in my mind. Now, how long it will take, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, but that's going to be essentially the future directions. As you can see right now, AI has been penetrating into every industry. Some people call this as a bubble, AI bubble right now. But I think this is more like a paradigm shift in my mind. We are, basically experiencing the transformative kind of impact of AI revolution. And education will be greatly affected. In fact, right now at the Tippie College, we are already embracing AI into our curriculums. Every major is talking about how to, endorse AI, embrace AI, using that as a way to complement the things that we are teaching. And you will also see autonomous tools and machines, bots everywhere. And this is happening right now, and then more gonna come. And in terms of the labor force, right now you heard the news about the laying offs, right? Because due to the AI, agent deployment. But on the other hand, you're also going to see like new scales or new hires, new jobs that are going to be created. So I think that's why, we have to keep an open mindset and then keep learning and then try to, educate ourselves and then to have this thing called a marketable scales that we can potentially do well in the job market. And also for the hardware side, new AI chips will continue to be developed, and using the quantum computing is one example. But if you look at AMD, Intel, and all these large chip makers, they are working on this right now. They are constantly developing, new AI chips. NVIDIA is all working on that as well. Um, there's going to be a major, major boost because this AI for the global economy. And Elon Musk, has already said, in the future, he's anticipating that people don't have to work. I don't necessarily quite agree with that, but you see that, where people are going. And AI-enabled chatbots and companion bots are going to become mainstream. And I know there's some stories that talk about the downside of using this for mental health usage, but there are other scenarios where these companion bots or the chatbots will still going to be try to be developed and used. And especially, for example, for elderly care, you need those bots to taking care of this, elderly people. GAI will be able to verify information as we talked about before, before giving to the users, RAG technology, and there's some other techniques out there that you can use. But I think most importantly, as one of the audience already mentioned, we need more regulations. There will be a global, effort in terms of, using the regulations, try to ensure that people can develop and use the AI responsibly. At the same time, the user gonna feel like they know how to control the AI because it's growing so fast, and the people are afraid and also intimidated by this. All right, that's my quick summary, and back to you, Nick.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Pat, and big thanks to all of you for your insights. And now it's time to bring your questions to the table. You can drop them into the Q&A feature. That's that question mark icon down below. So first up, we have a question from Hadassah Hole. Is there Are there good ways to walk people back from the AI answer that is clearly incorrect, but they are sold on everything AI gives? I don't know which. This seems like a hybrid question that touches on Pat and ethical use and Emily and the human side. What do you got, team?
Well, I'll give part of Emily's answer here. You're the expert. We have domain knowledge that AI doesn't always incorporate, and we need to keep that in mind. This comes the idea of verifying. If an AI gives you an answer, ask for its sources. And if I'm using it, I will ask for it to give me a peer-reviewed source, going to something that is very reliable. I'll let Emily take up on that one.
No, I love that. Because I'll that and It will give you direct quotes from peer-reviewed articles that don't exist. Like I've used it sometimes saying, I need to support this point, like where it's an article, and then I'll read it and I'll be like, you are wrong. Like, and so I think the domain expertise, but also I don't know, hold on, I don't remember the name of the individual because I think it's already been checked off. But
Adasa.
oh, thank you, Adasa. If you're talking about it in the framework of like teaching, so if you're talking about a student sitting down and going through what they've written or what they've used from AI and going, what does that mean? What does that mean? Because it sounds fantastic. But I'm going to quote Pat actually on Radio Iowa, where you said it's like an enthusiastic intern. And we have all been in the position of being an enthusiastic intern who writes the buzzwords and it sounds great. And our supervisor goes, what is this? This means nothing. So asking why, be a 5-year-old, why? What does this mean? Why? It will get us to that critical thinking. We need to overcome some of the buzz around it.
Well, and sometimes it'll give you the intern answer. Like I've caught it before and said, hey, that's not what so and so, or again, back to Pat's point, you're the expert. And like an enthusiastic intern, it said, oh, good catch. And it's like, so this one is for Professor Johanns. Would you recommend we cite whenever content, visuals, charts, etc., are AI generated in professional presentations? If so, how do we cite this appropriately?
That's a good question. And I
That's
don't know
from
whether,
John Poles.
yeah, I don't know that there is a style guide yet for referencing AI information. What I do is I use an image that I generate in a PowerPoint presentation. I'll make a little caption to put underneath and say image generated by ChatGPT 5 or whatever. That's how I cite there. Um, in correspondence, I frequently, a student may have a question about statistical software I'm having them use. And, it gets into kind of the weeds, and it's really easy just to go to ChatGPT or Copilot and say, I've got a student that's having this problem, and have it do the research for me about the steps to go through and solve it. Um, it generates a nice list of directions to give them. I can quickly verify that. And then I just tell them straight up front, I said, I sent your question to ChatGPT partly because it's a pretty detailed answer, and I want to make sure that I'm relying on it. But it'll also encourage them in the future to perhaps use these tools to get their own answers that they're out there. But I also stress then, verify, make sure what they're telling you is indeed the fact. So that's kind of how I handle the citation issue is, a subscript or, a star and beneath it saying that's how I generated it, whether it's an image or whether it's a chart or something.
So here's a really good one from Harold Waliwa. And I will note our 8-episode season of Tippie Leads wraps up tomorrow with Patrick Fan and a great story from him and his son Winston on a project that they're working on. But of all of those conversations, one issue that came up a lot throughout those conversations addresses this next point of Harold's. Can AI be sustainable? I feel like I've been reading more and more about the environmental impacts and how they have disparate impacts to communities in lower income areas. Is this something being explored or talked about in your fields?
I'll take that, I guess, first. Yeah, there's a lot of discussion. And, if we want to just look local, look up in Cedar Rapids where they're discussing revising their zoning because they're going to bring Duane Arnold nuclear plant back online to run a data center up there. In fact, there's talk of a second data center going in there. Um, Data centers and server farms can use a lot of electricity and a lot of water. And they're trying to spread them out, partly because they want to reduce the distances, which will help make things a little faster, but also so you don't overload the grid in a particular area or the water sources. Uh, I think one of the things that we have to be very careful of, when we talk about ethics here, is people look at us, oh, it's bringing money and jobs to the community. And I think community people are going to ask very carefully, how many jobs and how big a tax break are we giving? If it's just jobs in construction, that may not be many jobs. So, who else wants to pick this up?
Well, I think it connects to another question that's been asked around like creatives. So the sense I get, and Patrick, I'd also like your thought on this because I actually don't spend as much time in generative, which does have this climate, sustainability problem. I spend more of mine in local, which is less of a footprint. So I'd love more perspective on that. But I think what this comes down to is as communities coming together and saying, what are we going to put up with and what are we not? The creative industry has been very vocal and bless them for doing so. I had no idea about Rusty, whatever. I have to now look that up. Pat, thank you. But I think it's really requiring each of us to consider what will we use it for, what will we not use it for. And then as a community, that puts part of this transparency of saying, here's my perspective and my philosophy on it. I have my students in my HR class write up what's their philosophy on AI use in their work. They don't necessarily hate this assignment, they don't love it, but it's sort of getting them to think about like, when am I gonna use it and feel comfortable? And when am I not? Like, I don't love its pictures. So I don't use it to develop pictures. It doesn't, it can't type on a picture to save its life. And so I don't use it for that. I don't love it for that. There are other things I will. So I think it's more, I feel so trite to be like, community's the answer, but community's the answer as an industry deciding what's our limit and why is that our limit and explaining to people why we care. And it's not just resistance for the sake of resistance, but resistance for a purpose.
I think one thing you will probably know that, for large language model trainings, like if you think about like OpenAI as example, right? They burn a lot of money just by training one model, like GPT-5, for example. And we're not talking about, tens of thousands of dollars. We're talking about hundreds, millions of dollars. You think like things like that. So most of the money goes to what? Go to the data center, to go to the coolings, go to the energy consumptions, pay for the bills. And are there any way we can do about it? Right now, this is more like an arms race among these different vendors. They just keep raising the money, and investors are putting the money for that. But on the other hand, we do know that there will be a huge environmental impact on this. That's why, I think some of them are using this, try to use like rivers or lakes, as a way to build a data center because they want to use those naturally. On the other hand, they also try to resort to like a nuclear powers, as a way to do this kind of a powering. Why? Is because they want to try to reduce this carbon, dioxide kind of things, CO2, right? To the environment. So I mean, there are effort going about this, but at the same time, we do realize in there, potential there could be some, digital divide, like AI can create some divide for the low income people potentially. That's just like a reality. And are there anything we can do about it? Hopefully, there will be some regulations or some, organizations that can try to address some of the issues.
Can I actually add to this? Do you mind?
Go
Because
ahead.
I think what there's another theme that's going around, and that is this is a trend. Patrick, I think you made this point of like, organizations are using it. They're looking for the future. They feel compelled to use it. Pat, you mentioned 80% of organizations are reporting they use it. I don't believe that number. I'm not trying to be a wet blanket. I think executives feel they have to be using it. They don't know how to use it. They don't know who to ask. So they rely on vendors that have all these issues that I sort of mentioned. And so I think this is a trend we need to be really thoughtful about and say, do we actually need to be using it? The companies, several of these companies that fired people last year saying, we're going to replace them all with AI, are hiring many of those people back. And I don't love that. Executives running this and putting people who are, entry-level workers in this vulnerable position doesn't help any of us. And so I think we need to caution, we need to be enthusiastic about how it can help us. And I think the healthcare is an area where we've seen it just unequivocally help really augment and push us forward. I'd like to think in selection it does, but I'm happy to have people push back there. But it is a trend, and that requires additional research, additional consideration, and looking beyond the trend. And don't be fooled by executives, no offense to executives who are like, yeah, we're all using it. I don't know if you are to the degree you think you are, and let's not pressure people who aren't ready. It's a little tirade. I apologize. When I have an audience about this topic, I feel very strongly. So, Pat Johanns, I think you were going to say something as well. Did I
Yeah,
mean
I want to add a point here, and that is when we think about both personal and corporate responsibility with this issue, you can get a factoid real quickly that says, if you use ChatGPT to get an answer, you're going to use 10 times as much energy as using Google. But just exactly how much energy is that? And they did a study, and the amount of electricity for a user of ChatGPT over a year would be like taking a 25-minute long shower. I mean, if you want to put it in perspective. So, yeah, you're not going to individually make much difference if you don't use ChatGPT. Uh, it's where Patrick Fan got to. It's the training of these models and the corporate use of models that is really putting the big load on our electrical grid and our water supplies.
So here's one, speaking of talking about, there's a couple of great questions on privacy, but I want to focus on this one from Tondi on my concern is intellectual property rights protection as well as stifling of original thought capability. Many of these AI models have been fed on materials by infringing intellectual property rights. Is a remedy possible? Does the toothpaste go back in the tube? That's my add-on there.
That's a great question and observation. And by and large, some of the models, especially some of the image models, um, they're using images that are out of date. So things that have fallen off copyright. There's a painting by a collective called Obvious or Oblivious in France that did a painting called Bellamy is part of that good friend. They sold the painting, but they had it make a portrait based on images before 1900. So everything was past copyright. And it was kind of a fuzzy gray painting, but it sold at Christie's for over $400,000. And it raises a variety of issues on, once again, who does it belong to? The person who wrote the AI that made the painting, the people that implemented it, a variety of issues there. But you know, there's a lot of stuff that's current that they're using the data and nobody's been compensated for it. Um, Perhaps, Nick, you might mention about some efforts being used to actually pay authors to use their writing in an AI.
That was a conversation, yeah, that you and I had about a year ago. I've written a couple of books on branding and digital marketing, and out of somewhat randomly, I was reached out. My agent contacted me with an offer that the publisher had received to use one of my books in learning and training with a nominal fee, and it was like, I mean, for all the talking about it, basically what we came back to was, I mean, it's like nice to be asked because they're certainly not. And though it's a fairly small fee, it's better than nothing. So there are, but I feel like again that's those are little things, but a
Well, you're the
start.
you're the only one that I know that's been paid so far.
I have not heard any others. So and I do know talk with a fair amount of authors. So uh I want to have time for one more question, and then we're going to do our final tip ease from everyone. So uh, Tom in the Q&A asks, Emily mentioned asking what attributes are being measured, and Patrick mentioned new skills needed. What attributes, skills will be most important for humans to optimize human AI performance?
So, from my perspective, I teach the students in the MSBA program and also some of these MBA students as well. And my suggestion would always be going to be like, make sure that you are aware some of the tools, like AI tool that is out there, like not only like ChatGPT, and there are many others like Grok and Perplexity, things like that, right? And Gemini, so many of them are actually out there that can potentially help your job. For example, if you are analyst, right? You're gonna do this data analysis. There are some tools out there in this JAI tools, toolbox that can help you to stay productive. So if you know how to use them, in combination with your own knowledge, your own skills, that are actually going to boost your, productivity a lot. And that's essentially what's happening nowadays. When the employers are looking for employees for the new hires, they are checking to make sure that you know how to use some of the tools, like AI tools, that can basically make you more like a very productive individual as employees. So that's the things that I try to let my students know. Make sure you learn either on your own or you pick them up, through the courses through these different instructors.
Yeah, I think anytime we learn something new, I mean, or are put in a position where we must, openness is super key. You'll hear me time and again that I don't study personality so much because I'm in the world of selection and we find people fake a lot and self-report and when applying for jobs because we all know to say that we're organized, right? But when it comes to learning, things like openness, things like learning orientation, growth mindset are crucial for us to actually take on this new information and explore something that's rather complicated. So I think that's one of the biggest ones. I'm working on some research right now with some grad students and folks at another institution on this concept of AI readiness, which sort of exists already. We have it under a number of different names. We're trying to sort of collapse it into one. Rest assured, one of the dimensions is ethics and knowing ethical use, but it comprises this attitude and this aptitude. So do I have a positive or at least not negative perception of going about using AI for my work, specifically in the workplace? And then do I have the capacity to figure it out? So that's the aptitude component. And so that's what I'm seeing as being sort of the most useful. I will say my undergrads are so open. They're just little sponges. They're waiting to absorb like whatever we give them on this. So I'm pretty positive about that.
And I'll just throw my 2 cents in here. People who are lifelong learners that have curiosity and critical thinking skills are going to do the best.
I love that. And speaking of lifelong learners, I know we've got several hundred of them here that we've been eagerly taking questions from over the past hour. But before we wrap up, like the Tippie Leads podcast, we like to close our lunch and learns with a final tip a practical takeaway our attendees can apply right away. So, what's one thing that you'd recommend our attendees take with them based on today's session?
So I will start, I will just say that, embrace, AI as you just see, like, you embrace coffee, you embrace coffee, do not be intimidated by that. Okay. Just, learn how to become a friend with it and then try to leverage on that for your own benefit.
Yeah, I'll go next because I know that Pat Johanns is going to have such a thoughtful ending, and I don't want to rob you of that by having to listen to me last. I love this. It's the embracing, but also I would say have your own mind about what you should be using it for. Don't just automatically because you hear a CEO say we need to be using it. I'm not convinced that CEO knows how to use it. So do your own research. So thoughtless to say. Understand it for yourself, use it yourself, and have your own opinions on what it can be used for and can't be used for.
All right. And I will finish up with you're not going to lose your job to an AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody who knows AI better than you do.
Well said. And Emily, you built Pat up, and I was like, oh, I'd hate to be Pat right now with some great great closer, but he delivered. Well, thanks again to our panel for this incredible presentation. And thank you to everyone who joined us for this Tippie Lunch and Learn. Remember, this session has been recorded and will be available on the Tippie Alumni and Lifelong Learning pages, as well as our YouTube channel. And be sure to tune in next month for Tax Trends and Strategies for 2026, featuring Tippie experts Jaron Wild and Ryan Wilson, a timely look at emerging tax trends, year-end strategies, and what businesses need to know as we head into the new year. It's coming up on Tuesday, December 16th at noon, and that link is in the chat as well. Right after the webinar, a brief survey will appear in your browser. We'd greatly appreciate it if you'd take a moment to share your feedback to help us enhance our future programs. On behalf of everyone at Tippie, thanks for joining us, and go Hawks!